Hello, my name is Colin Andrews. I am the chair of a UK registered charity with an operational arm of Malawian trainers training Malawi families and farmers in Malawi. And the principal aims of improving our agriculture is inextricably linked to the training for them to become water managers. In Africa, we've got a number of challenges to rural livelihoods that most people are aware of. We have climate change with the resulting unexpected droughts in the middle of growing seasons particularly, and flooding. We also have soil fertility issues where the FAO identifies some 29 tonnes of topsoil is lost from every hectare every year. And when that soil is lost, of course, it is then deposited in a damaging way to the lowlands as silt. And then finally, the most important thing which these lead to, which is rural poverty, linked to a time when there's population growth and the hunger, and as a result, the pressures on the World Food Programme are ever growing. And that vulnerability of those rural poor because of climate change and those other issues is what we seek to address. Typical examples, those pictures on your screen show you a typical flood. That village hasn't flooded before, but that was in 2021. And also the results of siltation destroyed crops. And the reason for that, why are we losing all this soil and all this water? Well, it isn't that erosion is the problem. Erosion is the result of poor farming and land management methods. This is the hidden enemy. Underneath the soil, just not very far down, perhaps 20 centimetres, perhaps less, is a hard pan caused by constant foot traffic, but more importantly, by the constant use of the mattock or African hoe, which year after year compresses the soil just below the surface so that water can't go through it and nor can roots of plants. And this contributes to many of our problems, but it really has only been known for 25 years or so in the wide scale of things. And Francis Jackson, OBE, who is a well-known world soil scientist, was sent by the FAO in 1999 with a team of people to discover to what extent hard pan existed in Malawi. And they were very surprised to find that not only did it exist ubiquitously all over the country, but also into all different sorts of soil, there was elements of hard pan or very serious hard pan. And the extrapolation of that is that the adjacent countries also suffer the same issues. In fact, countries all over the world suffer from compaction due to farming methods and the resultant damage to the environment from faster water runoff and also from ponding of water where it can't filter into the subsoil and top aquifers. So what we train farmers to do initially is to break the hard pan, which is on the left there. You can see great clods. Having broken the hard pan, having broken that impermeable layer, they are then ready to break that down and make it into deep beds. On the right-hand side, you see the collaborative work that our communities that request training from Tiyeni have to do to create a contour line, a contour ridge exactly on the contour. If they're 1% out, it's 100 metres long, that's 1 metre of water racing down the hillside. So these two pictures identify the solution to the problem, which is one, create the conditions so that percolation can take place, and two, stop water running downhill. This is how farmers become water managers, and they are at the very pinnacle of how water management can work and water catchment, because they're right up there in the hills where that rain first starts to fall and run downhill. If the water is all caught, as deep bed farms catch all the water that lands on their farms, if it's caught high up, that means that protects the farms below. If they catch it and so on down, then you have a cascading message to stop a cascade of water. And if that water moves fast, it will take the topsoil with it. It will take the family silver. That is the fertility of the soil for future generations of farmers. And in these two pictures, you can see the farmers working as water managers. There's a farmer in both of those. They're separate farms on a very rainy day, and they have captured a huge amount of water. And you will see, if you look carefully at the pictures, that already that water has started to percolate. In this picture, you can see the water it is actually raining. You can see on the left-hand side those excellent beds created by Edward from Bongolo. And he's got lovely mulch on the beds so that there's not any surface pan being caused by rain hitting the soil hard from 3,000 feet up. But also the water has been collected, and on the right you can see the water was collected and it's percolated into the subsoil, which is where we want it. It did not flow over the surface, it sat there and sank in. And that right-hand picture is important because you see a vetiver grass marker ridge exactly on the contour line. That vetiver grass, if ever that furrow filled full of water, that vetiver grass works as a sieve to allow the water to go through over it in the unlikely event of it filling up, but also stopping the soil from being washed through at the same time. Vetiver grass, really important to the deep bed method because it prevents a shock in the case of a very, very heavy rainstorm. And the result. So the agricultural result, that is the crop yield result, is really obvious. These two farms with one on each picture, the land is owned by the same farmer to the left and the right. One is his traditional method and two is the deep bed method. And I don't think I need to say any more. You look at those crops, you look at the colour, the size, and you see that deep bed farming is doing its stuff. What it's doing is it's accessing water below the hard pan, whereas on the left-hand side, the traditional farm, they haven't broken the hard pan. The roots can't get the micronutrients or the moisture necessary for their proper growth. But that's a deep bed farm you see there. That is, we've got higher, much greater crops. They get surpluses. That means there's going to be less need for food imports, less pressure on the World Food Programme. But also the hidden benefit, they are recharging their aquifers. And those aquifers are important for their livelihoods and for the livelihoods of the country, the national livelihoods. So without a water supply, no farmer can really develop properly. They need water, they need it for their own domestic uses, but they also need it for a dry spell in the middle because of climate change in the middle of the growing season. They've got some water on tap, as it were, to put on their crops. The water supply needs to be much nearer the houses than the current village wells are, where they have to walk perhaps an hour, wait for half an hour in the queue and walk back. That waste of time is got rid of, and that time is then used very effectively. And this method of farming, it addresses key SDGs, and those top two are the poverty and hunger, and that is what we started by aiming at. But what we find is that because we're becoming water managers, that is, our farmers are, there are a whole lot of other issues that are addressed. So lastly, we've been approached by SIWI, that's the Stockholm International Water Institute, who are linking with Tiara for a Zambezi-wide catchment pilot study. The idea is that Tiyeni, with its deep bed farming, will be used to deal with the water catchment high up and low down on smallholder farms. If the smallholder farms all do their stuff and percolation takes place well, then that's the first step in creating a healthy and managed water catchment. So the map is there, and you can see there are two areas in Malawi on the right-hand side where pilot studies are planned. So that's Tiyeni, that's deep bed farming, and of course we thought it was just farming we were doing, but we realise now that the key element of being water managers as well makes those smallholder farmers absolutely fundamentally vital for the future of African farming and African rural livelihoods. Thank you very much.